We are back. We are live. Episode 74 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. And as usual, Al Fluent, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm in the throes of early November and basically feel like waves are just coming and tossing me around. It's if you ever been surfing, it is a wonderful, playful, overwhelming feeling to surrender to the ocean while harnessing the wave. It is it ties me back to the 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 ancient aspect of surfing in the way that our ancestors have been doing it for generations, thousands of years, um, well, at least hundreds. We got a little over 1,000 years, probably even longer for sure. But in the ancient aspect of surfing, you got to acknowledge something that's stronger than you, bigger than you, um, and is more mysterious than you can understand. And it's an exciting time to live life that way because basically you can't pick your wave sometimes. You can only give what's given. You take what's given to you. And I think for me, that's an exciting place to be of discovery and openness. Um, that I get to be here with you all on the Lyrical Ones podcast. I think means a lot to me because escapism is a wild thing. Um, and you know, we in the world talking about the 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 rest of the solar system and then the metaverse and you know where our billionaires going to stretch out their arms and expand their reach, um, and still what matters to most of us is community, right? The little bit of community and not the external, not what's happening outside of Earth, not what's happening outside of our cities, you know, but within our cities, within our communities, within our tribes, and I think that's enough for me to deal with before I get this distracted and addicted to a virtual world, that is appeasing to my insecurities. Um, yeah, I told you it's a good day. So, before we get to part two with our
My man
guest,
getting deep.
Cineo, how are
Yo,
you?
I'm here
How are
for it
you?
though. I'm here for it though. I'm
That's
here
right,
for it.
Ross.
Let's
We
go.
got Ross part two with Cineo. Go ahead. Tell me
Yeah,
how you feeling.
yeah.
I threw the D Wade alley. Go ahead and do the rest.
Let's go.
Go ahead and do the
So
rest.
I'm
let me
Jason
let me
Terry.
let me let me
Ah.
let me grab that one time and take it away. How am I doing? So um that was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. For the present and the past and the future. Really, I am mindful, hyper mindful right now. So mindful. So important to be mindful right now. Mindfulness is such a pressing thing that I think is just often ignored or not discussed enough. Having a lot of conversations with people around communication and how all these different things that we do are different forms of communication, right? Your personal brand, who you are when you leave the room, what are people saying on your behalf? What are you saying without saying anything? What is your actions? What is your presence saying? What is your mental? What are you saying to yourself in the morning, right? Are you
Yeah,
telling yourself you love yourself in the morning? Are you like some just say wake up, get up. But then what do you do to stay, right? To maintain that presence of being uplifted. So mindfulness. I'm being mindful. So I'm as always extending the gratitude and thankfulness for appreciating the things that's going on and repairing the harm of what is existing. So mindful. So Affluent, as you said, we are joined yet again. We are here, blessed with the presence.
Part
This is
two.
part two now. This might be a
Yeah,
series. This might be a, the way
yeah.
the conversation was before we got on here. For those that aren't acquainted, please introduce yourself to those that are
What's
listening
good? What's
to
good?
episode 74.
It's your man, 100 grand Ross with the Rock Never Stops. We talk about basketball. We talk about some social justice. Even throwing a little bit of boxing for you on this YouTube channel. But I'm excited. I can't wait to get into this today with the lyrical ones. This is gonna be fun, y'all. This is gonna be fun. Because I'm already sensing all types of energies. We gonna get deep. We gonna get into these uh, these fool's gold winning teams. We gonna talk about uh, the all of it, all of
Also, a
it. We
lot of
gonna
layers. It ain't the surface, right?
facts.
Which again, the rock never stops,
The Rock
right?
never
And
stops.
you can take that in multitudes, as we definitely have witnessed with what you've been able to show display. And for those that don't know, the rock never stops is Ross's YouTube channel. You can catch his content on that channel. The rock never stops. And yeah, like more importantly, you have brought up something that often, right, we may not dive into often, but is always present, right? And that is, you know, right now we're talking about the NBA, right? We're talking about basketball. We're talking about the dynamics of teams, the players, and how they're literally at the mercy of the association, right? It's literally the structure that's before them. But more importantly, you were saying on the multiple layers and levels of how racism plays factors into how the marketing, the promotion, and what the dynamics of a team will look like, right? Whether that's your coaching staff, your supportive staff, or your team, right? So yeah, break that down for
So
people
this is
who don't really want to
let's
peep game or can peep game. For those that are listening.
so let's dive into this. One of the greatest misnomers within our society is that uh, white people have no culture. That they have no culture. This is one of the greatest myths. Um, and what's crazy is like only in the United States do people say this that white people have no culture. Outside of the U.S., everybody knows white culture. Everybody knows American culture. They know it. They know it because they make a lot of money off of it, but they also see how it comes in and exploits and kind of decimates their economies. They see how it leads to foreign policies and things of that nature, and it's prolific around the world. But how does this play out in the NBA? Culture is a series of norms, values, and ways of seeing yourself in the world that become so normalized within a community that it's embedded in the very fabric of how they move. All right. And a few of the things that play out that's a part of white culture that plays out in the NBA is how they distribute what's valuable, right? Their idea of what's valued. And so within this culture, um, what's very valuable to them are things that are quantifiable and replicable. For them, the ability to think linearly, to add things, and it add up to what they want it to be, is extremely important. And this is why you have this whole push about having coaches who have systems, who have good systems. Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, Steve Kerr, right? Brad Stevens. These individuals were renowned for their systems, right? What was diminished was more of an African indigenous cultural value, which is interconnectedness, relationship, the ability to communicate effectively to one another and to be able to work together collaboratively, right? And so what ends up happening is because of this value system, now how they look to hire and who they see is what they prefer um, is is where this becomes embedded in the institutional part of it, and the actual hiring process. What ESPN talks about. Oh, this is a great hire for this team, right? This guy just couldn't get over the hump. Not to think about who they have to go against, right? Doc Rivers and the Clippers. Oh, they underachieved. They were going against the Warriors, one of the greatest teams of all time. They're going against the Houston Rockets. They're going against they messed up here and there, but who's been that far before anyhow? How many coaches have actually been that far? How many teams have been that far? Right? The Toronto Raptors, they just couldn't get over the hump. Dwayne Casey wasn't the man for the job. Who are they going against? LeBron James. LeBron James.
LeBron
Who's
James.
taking out. You didn't see the Utah Jazz get rid of Jerry Sloan because they couldn't get past Jordan,
Nah, they made him one of the most winningest coaches
right?
in NBA history by
You didn't
keeping
see
him
the Knicks
employed.
get rid of Jeff Van Gundy because they couldn't get past Jordan in the playoffs, or Pat Riley with the Miami Heat, right? You didn't see that at all. They was like, we couldn't beat that guy. But somewhere along the lines, when black coaches can't get all the way, right? Like that's our only validation is if we win a championship. And if you do, okay, now you're standards. Okay. Doc Rivers, okay. Maybe Tyronn Lue, who's done an incredible coaching job with these Clippers. Incredible. I guess it wasn't just all LeBron James. Really, really, he got the most out of J.R. Smith, right? He was getting the most out of guys that a falling apart body of Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, right? He got the most out of that team around LeBron, right? So I mean, when we see how this plays out, what people value, it also goes into signings. Guess were some of the most atrocious signings I've ever seen in my life. Atrocious. One name that actually slips my mind from the Houston Rockets. I'm trying to think of his name. 6'10", forward. I believe he played for University of Florida. I'm trying to think of his name. He ended up getting signed by the Memphis Grizzlies. You might remember him. Hardly played at all. Got a max contract because he had a decent season with the Houston Rockets when James Harden was there. I'll think of his name in a little bit. But then you look at guys like Gordon Hayward, always injured, max contract. You look at guys like Joe Harris, huge contract, despite underperforming in the playoffs, not proven in the playoffs, and a one-trick pony for the most part. You can either shoot, and when he can't shoot, no good, right? But because they value what is quantifiable, right? Percentages, right? They shoot this high clip during the regular season. Okay, so they're this extremely valuable player, right? Duncan Robinson, right? Oh, he's so valuable. He's so valuable because he can shoot the ball, right? It's a skill that they can relate to. Those in power can relate to, right? Oh, it's highly skilled. Oh, you see the basketball IQ, the intelligence. JJ Redick got some absurd contracts, right? He can shoot. He just creates so much spacing on the court. Can he defend?
Nah,
Can he put the
Duncan
ball on the floor?
Duncan
Post up a
Robinson is
little bit.
not changing the pace of any game.
And in the
He
playoffs, and this is the sad part, in the playoffs, they know what always goes down: shooting percentages. So how valuable is a shooter when you know the percentage is going to go down in the playoffs? You need
well,
somebody who can do more.
it's gonna make us money throughout the season, right? It's gonna sell tickets throughout the season. We go get a few jerseys. We go get a few
Get this, they
jerseys.
don't even sell tickets. Those guys don't even sell. Duncan Robinson don't sell tickets. Ain't nobody coming to see Duncan Robinson.
But he
Ain't
get
nobody
but
showed
he
up
get
with
drafted
a
on
JJ
fantasy.
Redick jersey.
But he get picked up in the fantasy team.
I don't even pick him up on my fantasy squads. I don't do that. One trick ponies. There's other guys who hit threes and get steals and get blocks and get rebounds. I don't do that. We can get into fantasy basketball. I only draft based upon the extremity skills: steals, assists, rebounds, blocks, free throw percentages to fill up the categories that are hardest to win.
Right.
But if you overload your team with them, you're winning 5, 6 categories easy, even if you surrender points or something like that. Right? This is how I always end up in the top three. That's kind of my strategy, along with some other things. But
Good.
it's to
There go
say,
there go your tips. He's not giving all away,
I'm
but
not gonna give them all away. I'm not
not
gonna
gonna
give them
give
all
out.
away.
But looking
There's a
in
few more. If you go to my channel, I actually have some things you're gonna be able to glean from. All right, how to stay
the
away
rock
from
don't
rookie.
stop. Check out the YouTube channel.
I'll add it. You know what I'm saying? But that's how race plays out in a major, major way.
Ross, it's interesting you say that because when you look at teams from the 80s,
Hmm.
right, you get early 80s, you get Showtime,
Hmm.
right? where you got these players, right, who are communicators to each other, right? You got the bad boys of Detroit, right, who play as a team, right? You have you got the Rockets in the 90s, right? Who almost get two,
No, they got two
and oh yeah, so they get two.
against
The Rockets
and the Knicks,
and yeah, um,
and they should have got the Bulls if they had beat. I'm telling y'all right now, they would have beat the Bulls. Jordan wasn't doing nothing against Dream. He couldn't. He
what
had nothing.
what is nothing for it's nobody it's nothing for anybody to do against Dream.
And Dream would have created a no-fly zone inside. He'd be like, "Oh, Mike, I ain't worried about Mike.
But
I don't want to be like Mike."
they did what they needed to do to work around that,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
But this, this,
You just wait it out.
but this is what people have to understand about capitalism, how it also impacts the NBA. During that post '90s era, everybody saw how much money Jordan made the Bulls, and all these owners was like, "I don't care about winning. I just want somebody who's going to make me money like Jordan made the Bulls, whether
Oh
they
yeah,
won or not."
oh
They
yeah,
made hundreds of millions of dollars.
right.
So
You
when
get a
they
Larry Johnson, right? You you get a Sean Kemp,
Vince
right?
Carter, Allen
You
Iverson,
get a Vince Carter,
give me
right?
something exciting.
You get the swingman,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
right? And meanwhile, you're changing the dynamic of your hirings, right, amongst the staff to say to again, right, to promote the system, right?
Well, even back then, I don't even think it was about system. I think back then there was still this prejudice around you need a white man to be able to corral and control black bodies,
Don
and
Nelson.
so they would want to see a white guy on the bench because he's the one he has the know-how. He knows how to get the most out of those guys. He knows he's a hard-nosed coach. Yeah,
Not, even if
straight.
they're not necessarily a hard nose, right? They they get us. Sometimes they just get a suit,
Mhm.
right? Someone, right, who's a straight face, right? Cool, calm character that won't get flustered. If he can't get an aggressive guy, right, you get somebody like that. You get a
Yeah.
muscleman to get promoted, right? For
Eric Muscle. Oh my goodness.
he ends up as a head coach, right? For no apparent reason.
Hold on. And then they bring in the black coach that's been coaching for 10, 15 years as an assistant in the NBA. Not to mention whatever he did in college, works out with players in the offseason, grinding for opportunities. You know what we'd like you to come in and do? Be our head assistant.
Yeah,
Be our head assistant.
yeah.
Say,
It's a pretty like
yeah.
you gotta like you, and it's that the illusion, Arsenio, we talked about before, like that
Mhm.
illusion of meritocracy.
Yeah, yeah. And inclusivity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you pay your if you pay your dues,
If you pay your dues,
right,
then
and you
you'll
do
then
a
you'll get
good
an opportunity
yeah.
to get close to maybe possibly getting considered for an interview.
If someone gets fired with or if there's a scandal, you may get an interim job or you might get interviewed as a candidate for an interim job.
Yo, where you like coach your ass off, JB Bickerstaff, coach your ass off, and then they're like, oh,
Oh, because that should have
I
got a
guess we
job.
gotta, Tyron Lue, you're gonna make us hire you. The star wants you here. Oh my good. Okay, fine, fine, fine. We'll give you a contract. But if you don't get to the finals, we're gonna say you underachieved, and we're gonna find somebody else.
And you might not be able to pick your own staff.
No, you can't even pick your own staff. Guys like Mark Jackson who had to deal with Brian Scalabrine talking crap about him the whole time and undermining him the whole time. Yeah, that's it.
That's one thing I do like about the NFL in terms of the coach and the GM picking the choosing the staff when they come in. that's been prevalent, in in football, college, and pro football. You get to choose in the NCAA for basketball, right? But so
It's,
you got so many players who are, I mean, coaches who are tenured, right? That sometimes they do actually take the staff that was there and they say, because you know the players and you know
but it's also
the
short lived though.
institution,
Usually it's just
for
one
sure,
season.
right?
Usually it's just one season. Oh, you're here. Okay, we'll give you a season to see if you're worth keeping around, but we're already kind of
Yeah,
shopping you with somebody.
just
Daryl
like that.
Morey. It's
And
it's
I
yeah.
think you see it in tech where you get folks who are excelling and probably overqualified for the position and don't get interviewed for team leads, don't get interviewed, for managerial positions or mid management. Um,
Yo, that's what is eroding. Somebody wants to know what's eroding the United States: white supremacy and patriarchy.
oh yeah, the
Because
lack of promotion.
it's not even about who's the most talented. It's not about putting out the best product. It's not about even maximizing profit sometimes, which is I think is the only kind of difference between liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats. It's still about exploiting people, but liberals are willing to put a black face on it. Conservatives are not.
Right. That's the difference between the parties.
Hey, if you'll help us exploit and make more money, all right, we'll bring in Obama. It's okay. Okay, come on. You're gonna help us make a lot of money.
It's just one of y'all.
Yeah, it's just you know what I'm saying.
It's
It's
not
just
all of
one.
y'all. It's just
It's just
one.
one. As long as you know what it is, you know you can't do nothing, right? You know you can't do nothing.
And if you try to do something, well, we got contingency plans to shut it
Nah,
down.
this was crazy. This was crazy. They select you so far away. They've seen you playing that game already, relinquishing any real ties to try to create change within a community. That they're already like, I think he'd be a good candidate. I think he'd
Right.
be a great candidate. I think you know
Yeah.
what he gets it. He gets it.
That's
And then
it.
they pull. Yeah,
They say this person is setting up to be a lifelong politician.
lifelong.
Right.
Yeah,
This person
They're going to be a career, a
this
lifer.
person, right? This one wants to play the game.
yes.
He or she is willing to um release like you said, relinquish the grassroots movements that got them in the game.
No, this is the
Right.
crazy part about it. I got a chance to talk with Elaine Brown, who wrote a book called Taste of Power. She was a Black Panther and largely responsible for a lot of the different programs that came out of that organization that it's renowned for. And she was saying even throughout their early periods, they knew that the FBI and the U.S. government was seeking to find a black face to put as the leader of the civil rights black community, but would still follow through with their own agenda. And she was like, and guess who was the first person? And this is before, I think it was like just when Obama got elected the first time. And everybody at first was like, ooh, was it Jesse Jackson? And she was like, yeah, but there's somebody else. And I was like, Obama. She was like,
Yeah.
and she was like, they've been trying to do this for so long. And it's the same thing that happened on the plantations. They would find the most virile, strong looking black man
Charismatic.
and be like, look, we're gonna put you in a position of power. You just gotta maintain things here so that it can get better. You can help them, you know. Just make sure they stay in line and just go along with so everybody's able to make the most of this experience. And they convince an individual who's willing to compromise everything. Um, in order to feel like they're in a position of power, but it's the illusion of control. It's the illusion of control, and I think a lot of people needed that strong wake up with Obama to be like, they're not invested in you, and they will play you to the core and
So you
play
better
on your whole.
set yourself up to win. And people was like wondering why he was back and forth through California.
because we think it's about winning, but we're playing their game. And so we keep thinking that we're playing to win. We don't understand that we're playing with their pieces. So no matter what effort we put in for the Democrats or Republicans, it doesn't matter. Unless we have our own piece on the board, there is no win for us. There is no win. And I think
Yeah.
we needed that shake. I think for me the shake was when he murdered Gaddafi. I think when he put the hit in for Gaddafi, and I saw the fallout in Libya, that just hurt my like I knew slavery was still going on in the Middle East, enslaving African people, but it was mostly in like indigenous native communities, kidnappings and things like that, or in cities. It was still quiet.
Yeah.
The moment he died, the moment he was killed, it came in like a flood, started mass kidnappings of African people, and I was just like our country did that, and that was like Obama, you ain't got nothing to say to me. You ain't got nothing. You have absolutely nothing to say to me. I see you for what you are. You know, uh, Obama reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen that show Underground. It's
Nah, I ain't seen
oh
it.
we gotta see the show Underground on what is it? Not Netflix. The
On
other one,
Hulu,
Hulu, on Hulu,
Underground, Hulu,
Underground, Hulu. Yo,
two
this show,
seasons.
yo, 2 seasons. They had to stop it at season 2. And if you see the episode they stop it on, you'll understand why.
Okay.
It's too empowered. It's the only slave narrative I can watch. That's it. It's the only one I watch. It's humanizing, and it shows the nuance of experience within that community during that time. But there was a certain character by the name of Cato, and I want you to watch his character's development, um, where you see someone's commitment to themselves so much and feeling a sense of control. And a lot of characters have this desire to feel in control and look to find it in different ways. Some by running, some by, doing what they had to do. But this individual, to the extent he was willing to compromise everything, everyone, for a sense of control and be in a position of authority and power. And it's like when I see Obama, I'm like, and people don't see him as that cutthroat because he smiles, he's smiling. But what it
I
takes to
mean,
put a hit on somebody,
but the thing is, right? If you if you think you go be president, right? There's already some megalomania there, right? Off top. One, not just because you think you should be in the seat, right? But also because you're willing to play the game to be in the seat,
you've been
right?
playing the game.
Right, for sure. And
Let's
and
not
you
forget
know
that Obama is
you
related
know
to the Bushes.
right, you know the system, right, is like it's the wheel, right? It's Game of Thrones, right? It's Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, we just go shuffle people around, but we ain't gonna do nothing different. We ain't gonna do nothing different. It's like whether it's the Starks or the Lannisters or whoever, right?
Same
The
game.
game is the same.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. And I
They
think
they
that's
switch
the.
they switch figureheads,
Hmm.
and everybody got to lose something.
I
And
think I think
so
that's been the
you
biggest difference
go ahead.
about the NBA is all of a sudden you had a start. Somebody who's just enough outside of the willingness to compromise. Like when he came in the league and he said my favorite player was Allen Iverson and not Jordan. It was like you could see like people were gonna be like, "Ooh, we didn't want to hear that. We wanted Kobe. We wanted Kobe. Rest in peace. We wanted somebody who was gonna go with the flow. What this is, is hey, just play. Don't say nothing. Just keep going." But LeBron comes along. LeBron's like, "Yeah, Black lives do matter. I'm gonna put on a shirt." And he didn't exactly like he wasn't extremely transformative, but he forced the NBA to make the allowances that they did. Like they couldn't pull an NFL. Like if Tom Brady was Cam Newton, right? if Cam had won, 6 rings, like he's just killing it, right? It would have been Kaepernick would have never had to do what he did.
True.
Never.
Of course.
Well,
And so when I look at
If Kaepernick would have won, then he wouldn't have had to do what he did.
which is
They
a
would have
shame
did a
because he was in the Super
documentary.
Bowl. It was a shame. He was there. He got there. He got there.
It
Yeah,
was
but
a shame because he was a system guy, right? So he ran the plays that was called, and all he had to do was audible one time, and he wins the Super Bowl.
But
He
you know
call,
what? It's
he calls one run play from the 6 yard line. He calls one run play from the 6 yard line. They win the game.
no, and it's
Four downs
that was
from
tough.
the goal.
That
Nah,
was tough.
it was more than tough.
It was
I
tough.
watched it. I watched it.
It was almost as bad as Marshawn Lynch not getting the call on the goal
Well,
line.
that's the thing because it happened before, right? We seen it happen, right? We seen it happen a few times,
That was tough. That was tough. That was
right?
tough.
But we saw it before. We saw it before that. We saw the narrative play out in entertainment before that, which in Friday Night Lights.
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
not Friday Night Lights, but the other one, Varsity Blues,
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
right? Varsity
Yes.
Blues. Say, oh, we run it
Friday
down to
Night
the two
Lights
yard
too.
line. Give it to the fullback.
Yeah.
Give it to the white fullback.
Yeah.
You know, right?
Because
But
we got to be a team player. We got to be a team player. Yo, if you ever, I just finished actually watching this seminar for the second time on this book called Yurugu. Um, Yurugu by Dr. Marimba Ani. Um, and she talks about a lot of these myths embedded within Eurocentrism and just that culture. And she's like, there's certain words that they use to disarm Black people because they play upon or African people playing upon our inherent cultural values of being interconnected and relational and needing to be able to work in harmony with one another. And one of the things that they do in sports is they say you need to be a team player. Team player. Let's not talk about who really benefits from the team, who is put in positions of power and authority the whole way through, the lack of support, being told to play through pain and injuries, right? By people who don't have to play through pain and injuries, and then being demonized when they don't, and then cut from contracts when they do, and then they can't play anymore, right? Straight up like Django Unchained when the brother's
you
been in too many fights, you know, and it's like,
you think
huh?
you think Derrick Henry played one extra game more than he should have?
Every NFL player has played one or two more games than they probably should have. CTE is real. CTE is real. And
Oh
these
yeah.
players' bodies get wrecked, like wrecked, the moment they retire. Their backs, their hips, their knees, their shoulders, their necks, dealing with lifelong issues with an average career span of a year and a half.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Depending on the position.
hmm hmm and so you're looking at being wholly exploited. And then when you start making decisions based upon your better interests, what's his name for the Niners, my man from Stanford, with the locks.
Richard Sherman.
Yeah, Richard Sherman,
Richard
right?
Sherman.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, he starts looking out for himself and saying, "Hey, y'all not gonna give me any attention if I'm quiet. So I don't mind being loud and boisterous and all over the place because that's the only way I get attention. And then y'all really got to look at me, and then I finally get signed for what I'm worth." The moment Richard Sherman starts doing that, all of a sudden, oh, he's not a team player. He's selfish, only focused on him. And it's that language that we got to be aware of. Allen Iverson was called selfish, wasn't a team player. When he made that statement about practice, people didn't know one of his close friends just got shot and killed. Right?
Right.
He's dealing with all that mental stress. He's one of the most injured players throughout his entire career, next to Larry Bird. Like, takes a pounding, 165 pounds. right? Going in there against Shaq, falling, hitting the ground time after time. And when he don't give his all in practice. So it's real interesting when you see these different things. The Chicago Bulls. I don't know if there's a Bulls fan in this house right now, but when they hired what's his name, the previous coach that they had before this one, um, I can't even. We don't even deserve to look at his name because he was a terrible coach and he should have never had the job. And everybody saw that he was terrible from the moment he got there. And all the players said that they didn't like him, they didn't want him, and they kept him around. I want to say almost 4 seasons. 4 seasons, losing year after year after year, underperforming, players walking out of practices. I don't want to deal with this guy. Right? Your star players is like, I don't like this guy. It's every chance in the world. Mark Jackson is overachieving with the Warriors, and because the front office didn't like him, he didn't mesh well with their culture.
Winning wasn't enough.
Winning wasn't even enough. And he hasn't gotten another opportunity yet. Yet.
That's the trippiest thing. That's the trippiest thing ever.
Luke Walton.
John Gruden came out of Monday Night Football, came out of his ABC job for $100 million.
Yo, overpaying these white dudes.
Right? To then, what he get 2 years? 2 years, and then the
He gonna
third
get all
year.
that money too. He gonna get all that
He'll
money.
get all that money.
Get all that money.
Coaches the only ones that get all their money.
Mark Jackson. Yo, Luke Walton gets credit for a winning streak with the Golden State Warriors, who had the most winningest team in NBA history. And
Yeah,
he gets credit
and gets
for
a job with the Lakers.
Was horrible with the Lakers. LeVar Ball is somebody who needs to get hired as a coach off the street right now. Right now. Right now. Everything he said was real. Everything he said his sons were going to be this. I guarantee you, if LiAngelo gets an opportunity, he gonna ball out. He gonna hit threes. And Lonzo, LaMelo, as soon as he said they need to be in this type of situation, this type of style, they're gonna thrive.
And LiAngelo only relegated to the G League because his look is too harsh. He got more tattoos than his brother.
He the big bro though. He the big bro.
He the big bro, right? So he can't be coached on how to dislike his father or right. He can't be influenced the same way, and he's the only one that chose to braid his hair.
Yo, I'm gonna be real with you, man. I can't wait. I think LiAngelo is gonna get an opportunity. I think he's gonna ball out. I think it'll probably be like a Buddy Hield type situation, 24, 25. I feel bad for LeVar. I feel like they're making LeVar kind of like toned down so that there's no resistance to signing LiAngelo. But I feel like they need to like literally like grab him for the Pelicans job now. Like grab him for like yo, if he had his boys, all three of them on an NBA team, I'm guaranteeing you 55, 60 wins. Guaranteed. You let him put together a team that he wants. You let him pick his roster. You give him a GM that backs him. He'll get you 55 to 60 wins, second round of the playoffs, guaranteed, lock it in, at least, bare minimum. They'll win for 5, 6 years. They'll have a run like James Harden did in Houston. Lock it in. Lock it in.
Yeah.
Lock it
in. Yeah, no, it's gonna be I think change will still incrementally come. Not at a pace that will bring like revolution, right? But at a pace that when we look 20 years down the line, we'll see a string of opportunities that move that morph the status quo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we won't we may get some, head assistant coaches, female coaches, right? But we may not get too many more black owners. Um, we
I mean,
may,
I think LeBron will end up an owner. I think LeBron will be. I wouldn't be shocked if Magic becomes an owner.
well,
Um,
somebody's go learn the lesson and to not get assassinated like Kobe. Oh wait,
you
y'all
weren't
hear
supposed to say
something?
that. You weren't supposed to say that.
Y'all hear something?
You weren't supposed to say that. You weren't supposed to.
You didn't say much. You just it was just words. You know what I'm saying? It was just
But
in the fictional world,
The metaverse
the metaverse,
and the other
in the
so
time frame,
metaverse,
other timeline.
the other timeline, right?
there
Because we're talking
is,
about the MCU.
yo, there is. People don't really understand like how much money is moving, like how big this thing is. But honestly, I think capitalism is going to eat itself up. We just got to make sure that we're not in the throes of it when it all corrodes.
I mean, you really foresee capitalism eating itself.
it's going to, because it's inherently parasitic, and it'll
Yeah,
prey upon itself even for an opportunity to eat more. And I think that it's going to end up even weeding. I think it'll weed out uh, racism pretty quickly. I'll probably say in the next 15 years. Capitalism will still be there, but racism is gonna become more and more of a distant. It'll be a poverty thing. It won't be like
it'll be less profitable.
it'll be less profitable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean
Especially as
that I do agree. I agree
because
that yeah,
Africa is
racism
coming.
is on its way out. Yeah, I mean Africa
What
is technically is here. It's just
Africa
Africa's
and
always
China,
been here.
Africa
Yeah,
and
well,
Africa.
China.
that's yeah, exactly right. Like there's
Yeah,
this international play on economics happening on the fruitful land of Africa, and
yeah.
the infrastructure that's being created right now is something that's going to really start to show kind of the fruits of the labor 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Which will have international impact on how we perceive Africa, but also who are the players that have the relationships with Africa, right?
Yeah.
And in that degree, right, you can't escape, because I've said this time again around the idea that race plays a role, but poverty ultimately is what it is, right? It's there is the fear, and people inherently hold on to this fear of a black world, of black power, of black leadership, of people who look of a certain right diaspora, and then for them to be in positions to say, "Oh, I want to benefit my people now," right? That is a true fear, but as I've also said, there are people in power who are willing to sacrifice their own family to
Yeah.
maintain status quo. And I do agree, right? Capitalism is a thing where it's indiscriminate on how it maintains itself. So it will feed upon itself. But I also have a feeling that it will farm, right?
Mm,
it will harvest. It will sit there and plant the seeds to reap the
yeah.
benefits later, right? Not
It will.
not in a massive scale to the
Oh
degree
yeah.
of everyone, but there are key players who are like, I understand the best two times to plant a tree is 20 years ago and now. So if I'm seeing that my what I'm supposed to reap coming soon is horrible, time to start planting again, right?
Hmm.
So I can regroup from the fruits, because somebody's gonna want what I have to offer.
Hmm.
And I do see that thing like, yeah, it won't, maybe it's not racism, maybe it's poverty, right? We're already seeing the dynamics play out right now with the labor force. And yeah, looking at sports as this kind of intersection between race, culture, and kind of the idealistic American dream, preying on the impoverished inner city, diversity stricken communities, right? This is something that often we'll see, like, oh, the basketball player, as you're the face of the organization, you're
Yeah.
the face of this multi-million billion dollar industry.
Because we want you
Yet
looking at you. We want everybody looking at you,
we want you to, yeah,
not
pay
at us
attention to
behind you.
them, right?
Yeah.
Not who's really reaping the benefits in the 20, 30, 40 year
Yeah.
run, right?
Hmm.
Like who's really in the same, when you look at when you look at the Last Dance documentary, and then you look at, well, who's still around in the NBA that's in that documentary, right? You got to really ask yourself,
Mhm.
they not wearing jerseys, right?
Nope.
And that's the thing that people like are so detached from, right? Because that's why I what surprised me about what you said, right, is you being able to see that, right? You being able to see, oh, we gonna get a black face to represent, and then to also see, oh, when you decided to kill this person, to then pretty much have your own the continent of which we all have a relationship with, right? Whether it's a very harmed relationship, horrible relationship, a toxic relationship, a relationship of indifference, there's a relationship there, right? It's in our skin, it's in the pigment, right? So you got Obama, who then becomes the face of, well, we're going to take out a African leader, to then have the exploitation happen on a massively harmful scale, right? And you're like, you know what, that was enough for me. I see it. Because what it calls to mind is how many people, black people especially, who don't even see that, who don't even have an association awareness or realization that that's what took place, right? Like they just, oh, he just took out a terrorist, right? Not a man from North Africa who was trying to establish some sense of like continental wealth, right? Like he was trying. Now, no one's flawless when you're in the power positions of politics, right?
Well,
But at the same time,
but we don't really understand like how this plays out. Like they weren't going to just allow him to rise to prominence to create a African national bank that's backed by its own resources, right? Like that bank would have did in the value of the euro and the dollar. Like it would have
Right.
just depleted. It would have just
it would have
like our
tanked.
economies. It would have just tanked. And so, but what they first tried was how do you get some people to try to overthrow him? How do you get his own people to try to assassinate him? Because it's far better for his own people to do it than for us to do it. Because then it
Anytime.
becomes too obvious.
Oh, that sound
Right.
like
But
Haiti.
yeah, but when he took out the assassins, or when he suppressed the people who were trying to right overthrow him and stage their coup, probably trained by us as we normally do.
That's what
Like
we
like
normally do.
we're really good at training other people how to disrupt and dismantle their own communities.
It's almost as though we got it down to a T in this
Yeah,
American
but then when we
society.
couldn't do that, we had to label him
A
terrorist
terrorist,
and
what
threat.
terror to the world.
Yeah, terror to the world. Look at what he's doing. And it's like people ain't ever heard of listen to the other side's perspective. But this is kind of, I mean, working in schools. I mean, you see it. You see it. Like we get the worst education possible. Critical thinking, no. Diverse viewpoints, no, no, no. We get actually coming up with your own ideas. Oh hell no! What is
Nah,
that?
just regurgitate. Just regurgitate.
Memorize it. Give it back to me. Short term, got it. Good. All right, we're good. We're good. And those who are really good at memorizing, you're going to score the highest on these tests we call the SATs. And then you are going to get the primary opportunities to move up the ranks
And
to
do
be an
just what you
overseer.
did in school is
Yeah, be a regurgitator.
regurgitate again.
And if you work your butt off because of your merit, pulling yourself up, even you can become an overseer.
Yep, you put your head down long enough, you can look down at somebody.
We'll put you up on the horse. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it.
You just keep your head down. Keep your head down, and we'll eventually let you look at somebody underneath you. Yeah, you're right. It's crazy to even consider it, but it is so true. And that's kind of the replication
Yeah.
across various organizations and various entities
Yeah.
in this American culture, right? Is that
Institutions and
we
interesting
try to,
growth. We don't
yeah,
we don't we don't select talent anymore. We go with who has the face that will perpetuate. But here's the thing: this is what a lot of these individuals really get: is that the short-term sacrifice of quality and even profit for them is worth the long-term sustainment of this normalcy of ways of being and living, and who is in a position to control it. And
Status
if you're
quo.
really willing to get into it, we could talk about the role that Christianity plays, because ain't no colonialism without Christianity, and ain't no Christianity without colonialism.
yeah, they become
I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
synchronous.
dive into that.
yeah. I mean, you only have pre-colonial. right? Christianity that has been burned and stomped out, and you know, basically,
or would have
you
never
can't
called
even
themselves.
you can't
They,
you it
they
would
would
have
have
never
never
it would
called
never
themselves
call
Christians. They would have never
right,
called themselves Christians. It was an
right,
insult, first of all, the name given. Secondly, they had already named themselves. They said we're followers of the way. We just follow this way. All right.
right, right.
So
It was
they already
they that's
said
who
we're
they
not really
were. That's
trying to.
the way. That's what was written. That's in the Bible. That's those were
And
their
oh,
their
here's the tough.
identity.
It wasn't even about a Bible yet. It wasn't even about a Bible. This is where it's important if you're going to be Christian to study Judaism, because if you study Judaism, you understand that a lot of those scripts are just stories. Some of them are real, some of them
Right,
are not. And really, it was about these foundational laws. Now, the foundational laws, even those aren't original. A lot of those come out of Babylon. And so, when you understand this aspect, that it kind of intersected with these Babylonian laws and these Cushite laws, and then all of a sudden, this group forms under these laws, and they say, "Hey, we're going to try this on," and a bunch of stories that evolve from it. When by the time you get to a Jesus character, he's like, "Look, this is just how you live this out. This is what these African people were trying to show us all along." But
right.
what did he
This is
say?
a civilization.
Don't try
This
to
is
put
this
no
is
man.
this is us as at its finest.
Yeah,
They was
and
trying to
here's the
teach
crazy
us
thing.
how to live at your best.
Not just at your best. See, to really understand it though, you got to go study the Cushites. You got to go
Yeah.
study these Nubian people, because these Nubian Cushites have been around for thousands of years. They're actually considered amongst African nations as the ancients. Today, their original tribes are now in the Sudan. Um, Extremely dark complected, beautiful, um, known with different phrases like the salt of the earth, known as being very like mild, meek, connected individuals, very relational, really relaxed, calm. Um, but these individuals, within their religious faith, spirituality, their focus was about becoming as godlike as we could be. And they didn't start off with the premise of we're born in sin. They start off with the premise that we are born sacred, that we come
Right.
from the sacred, and we are born sacred. And our journey is to actualize our fullest expression of this sacred. Big difference switching it to you're born sin. And
And
now you need something outside of you to wash you white as snow.
and so it's interesting because that's you see some progressive spiritual leaders are now talking about is the idea of being who you were meant to be, right? And taking your whatever your pain is, right? And finding your purpose there.
Ooh, I wouldn't even look for it in the pain. I wouldn't even
No,
look
no,
for it in the
not not not
yeah.
not not within the pain, but what was yeah, the injustice that exists in your life,
I
right?
wouldn't even go there. I
And
wouldn't even go
and
there.
and finding your response to it, and how your mechanisms, right, need to be let go of to be your full self, your retreat, your fight or flight or retreat or freeze responses, right?
Yeah.
Your
Examine
discipline, right? What is your religious discipline, right? What are the key factors that are going to ground you and base you to get you through those challenges and hurdles, right? Because what I'm seeing, and based in both of what both of you brought up, right? Being born sacred, right? There is nothing more fragile, more innocent, more awe-inspiring, more nurturing than seeing a baby, right? They are literally they're at the mercy of the world around them, right? Now, what world are they born into? Are they born into a world that is sacred, or are they born into a world that is sin? Now, that's up to the adults, right? Who are creating the space for this baby to be raised in. Now, what are we trying to do? Based off of what I'm hearing between the two of you, we're trying to get back to the point of which we came into the world, with everything, the awareness, the receptors, the ability to accept that we're still that baby. We still need a community. We still need a support system. We still need each other, right? We're still fragile. We strive so hard, work so hard to make it seem as though we're not. But in reality, right, the world that we create around us now is going to be what we bring the next baby into. So I'm looking at it as now, based off of what you both saying, how close am I to the baby that I was, being impacted by the world around me with the knowledge, awareness, and experience now, to then hopefully recreate that sacredness in the space that I'm in now for the next generation, right?
I like where you're going with that. And before I get off, I actually want to leave you guys with a book. Man, get this book. By, it's called The Spirit of Intimacy.
The spirit of intimacy.
Yes, by Sobanfu Some. Sobunfe. Some, Some with a hyphen over the E. She's from a Dagaran village in Burkina Faso. Um, she's now an ancestor. Uh, but her purpose that she expresses is to bring ancient African ways of being and knowing to the diaspora community that's been cut off from it. And the reason why that's so important is because when we try to figure out how to navigate this world and find freedom, it doesn't work with only being able to utilize the structures and the examples that are given to us by the oppressive system. And in order to find freedom that I've found, it's important that we bring in a point of reference from which we were already free so that we can have something to contrast our experience to. And so she talks about in there the different rituals and practices that they have to embrace the sacred coming into the world and the role of the community to ensure that this sacred being has the opportunity to actualize itself. But that actualization is actually also directly tied to the fruitfulness and to the success of the family and the community. And so there's this interconnected dynamic between the sacred coming here, the community that's already here, and the role of the elders who are returning.
Right.
And so you
Right.
have a large aspect of their community where the elders spend more time with infants and the young than even the parents do because they see themselves as very closely related because they're in the same point. One is exiting, the other one is coming, right? And so this dynamic that takes place in this village aspect has been one of the most beautiful examples of what it looks like to recreate the village experience, which transcends, I mean, to be honest, economics transcends um, a lot of the metrics in which we use to think of community or family success. We start
Right.
talking about generational wealth. And it's like generational wealth is not money, it's not property, it's the culture that sustains you, that keeps you
But that's
together.
what they're trying to steal from you. What do you mean?
Exactly
That's what
what
they
they're
want you
trying
to
to
lose.
steal.
That's what they want you to lose.
Oh, that's the premise of that is essentially why it's more profitable to invest in a Luke Walton and lose than it is to bring back a Mark Jackson and
Right.
potentially introduce and say like, oh, even though it's
The
totally
culture.
different,
The culture. We can't.
culture.
This. You can't keep this culture in our NBA.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
You can't keep this culture. Y'all breaking the game.
Breaking the game. You are
You're ruining basketball.
unless we figured out how to commodify it. Until we figured out how to commodify it. Allen Iverson was an over dribbler, selfish, individualistic player by NBA ESPN standards.
Who sacrificed his body for his teammates to
And 10
propel
years
them.
later, 10 years later, what you got Jamal Murray, you got CJ McCollum doing what? Cross, cross, cross. Doing all the things Iverson was doing. Oh, and it's just a part of the game. It's just every team needs that guy.
How many assists James Harden got?
Look, before I hop off, a couple things I'm excited about. I think the Portland Trail Blazers are losing just enough to get Damian Lillard out of there early. I see him with the Sixers. I can't wait for that. I'm waiting for the Sacramento Kings to finally fire Luke Walton and put that team together. Um, I think there's some cool things developing. It's interesting to see Zion Williamson not be able to get into shape, um, and looking like
Very
he's going to
interesting.
become Larry Johnson before he gets out of his rookie contract. Um, this league is going to be interesting. I think Doc Rivers and the Philadelphia 76ers are on their way to an NBA championship. Um, I think the Warriors are going to get good, but I think they're still going to lose in about the second round of the playoffs. Um, too many young guys that they're depending on that won't show up when it matters most. Um, it's going to be cool. I think the Clippers are a real threat. Are a real
Oh,
threat. Are a real threat to just about anybody. They are a threat. They are a
I,
threat.
I think I think the playoff, the last few playoff um experiences that they've had
Hmm.
has galvanized them.
They
I
are
think
versatile,
they look bought in.
and
Um,
they can bring you something that no other team really has a combination of is lethal scoring at the smaller skilled positions, but across the board. Like it's not just like Dame and CJ, really good guards, but everyone else is kind of just a role player. Like you have
nah,
a Paul George who can dominate you on the wing, but you can also have Reggie Jackson who can drop 25 or 30 in a playoff game, right? And they've got depth at it. They got Eric Bledsoe, like
he's a
who's
veteran.
Patrick Beverly on steroids because he's more athletic and he's
Act,
stronger,
actual right. It's actually he's stronger.
actually stronger and more athletic and has more offense. Like this team is so versatile, bought in, veteran leadership, amazing coaching with Tyronn Lue, and they're getting players back healthy with Serge Ibaka. They're going to have great depth. Um, that's going to be the real threat to the Lakers. I don't think the Nuggets are there with Michael Porter Jr. with his back issues, and I think it's going to be a lost season if he doesn't come back within the next month for them. No matter how good Jokic is, I don't think it's sustainable. I think he's going to get tired and worn down. Um, and the Phoenix Suns, I haven't seen DeAndre Ayton take the leap that I was hoping. They should have
Yeah,
had him shooting threes a long time ago, and they just haven't.
yeah. They got him. They got him playing like Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah, or worse, even like Clint Capella.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
like
mean, like completely like cuffed, handcuffed.
cuffed. And then the sad part, but oh, this is the other thing I'm excited about. The Timberwolves are losing early enough to where I think Towns will be out of there by the All Star break.
That's gonna be
If
amazing.
Yeah,
He should have been.
I
He
think
should have
he
been
goes to the
gone.
Warriors.
He should have been gone.
Yeah, I think he goes to the Warriors.
That's
But
where
yeah,
he
we
should
can
have.
talk
That's
about.
where he should. That's where he should have been 2 years ago.
I mean, it should. I mean, he's gonna be like Kevin Garnett. I should have left a long time ago. But
Yeah,
I said this on my YouTube channel. I was like, look, um, superstar players. If you're in a small market, if you have a superstar player, you have 7 years, 4 years on a rookie deal, 3 years on the re-sign, and the moment they're able to opt out, they're gone.
that's
And so what ends up happening is they have to trade them the year before so they get maximum value back for them.
South
But
Beach.
if you have not won a championship in a small market with a superstar, they are gone. Remember, they didn't never chose to be there in the first place. They were just traded.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And black
Except
people are the
LeBron.
same way. When we
Except
become free agents and can get out of here,
Is
we'll either
except
be out.
except 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 LeBron, who did choose to be there, which is why they couldn't keep him or trade him.
No, he got drafted there, left.
Well, yeah, but he wanted to be there.
But I mean, no, no. Let me be honest. If
Well,
he could have
okay, maybe
signed
not.
anywhere, he was never
Yeah,
going to Cleveland. He was
true,
never
true,
going to
true,
Cleveland if he could have
true,
signed anywhere.
true,
If
true,
he
true,
if he
true,
could have been like
true.
Magic Johnson and just signed a rookie contract,
If he would, yeah,
right?
if he could have signed, if he could have went in the third round wherever Melo or D Wade went, he would have.
If like literally like New York would have got him. It would have been Lakers or the Knicks. Chances of talent, yeah, yes. We know what to do with you. We know exactly what to do with you.
Yeah, you're gonna be, he would have had a movie already.
You'd have been had a movie. He might have been
Yeah,
the logo already.
yeah,
But we can talk about that next time.
Most definitely. Ross, thank
Yo,
you so much for your time.
even
The
Check,
Rock
yo,
never
check.
stops on
The
YouTube.
Rock never stops. We
yeah,
got Ross in the building. We're
what's
grateful
good?
for you. We appreciate you. Taking us all the way to the continent, to the motherland, and back
Get back,
to
back.
and bringing us around full circle. We appreciate you. Thanks for
All right,
coming on again and sharing with us. Um, have a blessed night, man. Take care, brother.
all right. Peace, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
That was a lot. That was a lot to sift through. I don't know how many people were ready for that, let alone myself. I knew, I didn't know. Um, but
And you
it
don't
is a
know.
lot to for real. But it's just it's crazy because yeah, the biggest export is black culture in the United States, right? When you look at music, when you look at sports, when you look at then like how people are leveraging their personal brands, right, to now
Talk about
become
mining.
right. I was speaking to a group of individuals and I told them, right, there was so much brand loyalty with Nike for so long. And one guy, right, who was a rapper, right, came along, took his brand, moved to Adidas, and all of a sudden everybody's rocking Adidas. It's
The world is rocking Adidas.
the world, right? The world is rocking Adidas to a whole nother level, right? And you could minimize and try and invalidate, right? Just because Ye is that person, right? And all of the things that come with him. But you can't really take away from the fact that there is massive amounts of wealth financially being generated off of the culture that he's a part of, that he lives within, right? That's black culture. Say what you want, but if Ye says dad shoes are cool, Balenciaga is going to make dad shoes, which then means 6 months later, Forever 21 is going to have dad shoes, which means that now dad shoes are everywhere, right? And you can say, oh, that's just shoes until you realize there's people who are in positions of power that can use that money and wealth that was generated to lobby for policies, right? To use their companies and leverage whatever they need so they can maintain and sustain where they are, which is why a lot of people are in the positions they're in. It's not by choice a lot of times. For a lot of people, it's just by happenstance. What's
Right.
there? And so, it's just it's tricky to look at things from a very, you know, in-depth, critical lens, to think of things outside of the context of what we derive from it, the joy, the thrill, the drama of sports. To then look at it for, well, how is it structured? What are the things that keep it operating? What is it that makes it tick? And you start to kind of, you know, decipher what are the elements. And yeah, it was dope to have Ross come on and really break things down and give us a chance to explore, cuz even, going into, you know, beliefs and religion and the social, economic, political, geographical dynamics, everything's interwoven, nothing is separated. And you know, this is episode 74.
That's
This
it.
is the Lyrical Ones podcast, brought
Podcast.
to you by the good folks of Lyrical Opposition.
Opposition. Opposition. Opposition.
LO versus everyone. So, Alpha, I mean, where does this leave you now, right? In this conversation, right? We went from everything from where the standings are with NBA to the dynamics of sacred centers.
Man, it's really like when it comes down to it, right? Like we have to keep, diving deeper inward, right? Which means learning more about the subject itself, right? And our identity and what that looks like, um, how it's described, now and look into how it was described before, um, and what has been, you know, diluted, decapitated, and disfigured, within identity, um, so that we can, you know, live again, right, at the fullest, most, divine. Like, it's wild because like people get butthurt about, calling yourself sacred or divine or, anything, you know, too good.
Too good. You too good? Oh, you think you too good.
Right. You can't be too good. You can't,
You can't be
but
too good.
you gotta be double good or triple good just to get a job. But you can't think of yourself as that.
Yeah, just don't tell nobody. Don't
Just
don't
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 just
don't tell nobody, right? You
don't be
just you
prime
do it
time.
and let me minimize you and control you within a minimization. Right?
Don't
Let me
don't
just
don't wear your crown on your head.
unless we give you a certificate to say so. And you only get it for that day.
Don't wear the chain around your neck. You
Yeah. You
know,
want to wear a chain? Look, we got the employee of the month wall. We're gonna take your picture, we're gonna put it up on this wall.
you want a chain? Here's a 401k.
There you go. Within our
Look,
system.
drag it around
You earning
for
just as much as the next person, even
drag it
though
around
you
for 40
outwork them.
years. Drag it around for 40 years till you retire. Drag this chain around, and I'm gonna look into the spirit of intimacy,
Definitely.
text, on relationships, which is wild. Just in the title itself. You know, ancient teachings of in the ways of relationships. Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna
looking
look at
for
Urugu.
yeah, Urugu. So I appreciate Ross dropping the literature on us. Um,
Definitely.
if you listen to the episode, if you catch it now, you catch it later. Hop into the Discord. Keep the conversation going.
Yeah, it's just a
And
community to uplift, right? It's a community to think critically and to, overcome. Can't stress that enough.
yeah, and we I'm just appreciative, really. Like, I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to process, the world we live in. We're level heads. Not always agreeing, but under the same perspective of love
Yes,
and wellness and betterment. And community and communal breakthrough. So yeah, I'm in a good space. I'm happy to be here, but I'm happy to take you know what we've been through here and move forward with it.
I wear my heart on my head. I'm heart headed. It's one of those things.
That's right.
I mean, it's yeah, it was a beautiful conversation. I am super appreciative of it because it really triggered a lot of thoughts around what does it mean to be a baby, right? What does it mean to be a person now? And how much do we at a point minimize the baby like state that some of us still exist in? You can take that however you want to, right? You can take that
Yeah,
from people who have a disability, right? Whether that's a mental disability, a physical disability, some ailment, some ongoing chronic disease, and how we don't create excess, right? We did not have a society that created access as the forefront for everyone. We created a society that had an access for a few, right? It still exists in that sense, right? People
right.
will complain about the people living in the tent if they don't fit within the societal agreement that the person living in the sheltered, space, right? I
Yeah,
live in this nice area and I have a foundation. I have a gate, a doorway, various access points. I'm shielded from the weather. And you, who is vulnerable, shame on you for smelling the way you do. Shame on you for whatever happened to you. Even though has it let it be a baby. Right? I hate to even use this because of what it invokes in certain people's minds, but it is always playing at the forefront. When the Joker talks about let it be a bus full of soldiers, no one bats an eye. But let it be one little old lady, everyone loses it, right? How we create these value systems and these contrasts to minimize and invalidate what happened when in reality it's a tragedy. In reality, it's sad no matter how you cut it. There are people who live in dynamics. This is the thing, right? Whether you have the compassion to see it, to want to try and fix it, or you just are so detached because you're jaded and you're hurting, right?
Yeah.
If someone is harmed, you try and find fault as to why they were harmed. But let it be a baby. Oh no, this is too much. Even though it can happen to anybody. Do we create a society that is preventing the harm from happening to everyone? Or are we
Nah.
just throwing our arms up when it's happening to the few? Right? Now, myself, I continue to work towards repairing that harm so it's for everyone, the benefit of the world, and not just for a limited few. As
Yeah.
futile as it may be, I enjoy the process. I have so much fun as I get to destroy the ignorance that exists within people and I get to incite compassion and empathy. It's a
Yeah.
fun
We
time.
got it's a very skewed view of what helplessness looks like and who is helpless. And it determines, the uproar. Because somebody poor died, that was it's their own fault. It was supposed to happen. There's nothing in place that's, setting them up for failure. There's no relationships that they have that is manipulated and taking advantage and preying on them. There's no, you know, work situations that are toxic, unsafe, harmful to them. Like they're supposed they didn't survive. That was on them. They weak and uneducated and not capable of navigating through this society
Oh,
that's set up.
you mean like the 30% chance that, you know, minority children have to go to college versus the 70% chance that those with supports will, no matter how bad or horrible they are at school, right? They don't even have to be elite. They have a 70% chance of going to college. If they have the supports, right? If they have a family that has financial footing and backing and time, they gonna make it. Versus oftentimes the child who does not have those things, who ends up being a minority child, right? I wonder what type of society we're trying to create. It's almost as if what started in this society is though there was people who were in positions of power and then there was people who had no power at all. And somehow those systems just continue to build on top of each other, right? It's almost as though that's the foundation that all of this legacy, this history, this heritage, this culture is built upon. The ones who had the power struggling to hold on, and the fear that the ones who didn't have power as they grow and they expand on their shaky, shaky foundation will reach the top of the higher one. Hmm, it's wild. Something to think about.
Yeah.
If you plant an apple tree and every time you try to grow your apple tree at the same time as mine, I just cut yours down, right? Just cut yours down, right? I say, no, I don't want your tree that big. I want your tree to be smaller, right? But what happens if I don't take care of my tree and I say, you know what, I'm gonna let your tree grow? If you nurture it and you take care of your tree better than my tree, it has the possibility of outgrowing my tree no matter how long it's been going. Somehow that just feels like what's happening now. And sometimes, the ones with the sick tree, I think they're tempted to try and cut the other tree down. Maybe they try to cut a branch. Maybe they try to see if they could burn it. Just maybe. Lyrical Ones, episode 74. Any final words for the people who are listening or will be listening?
Plant your own trees, and then share them with your people, and teach them how to farm too.
That's what's up. I agree wholeheartedly.
And
Lyrical
separate from this centralized patriarchy.
There you go. Separate, break away, get free. Lyrical Ones.
Run, 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 run.